Tom Hardy climbed from the Blacktown car into the chill of Heathrow's pre-dawn drizzle, a wisp of gray breath dissolving in front of him as the terminal's automatic doors slid apart. Paparazzi were already roosting on the departure ramp, telephoto lenses jutting like periscopes through the car park barrier. They shouted questions about reshoots, about a rumored post-credit sting, about Bane's unexpected return to the screen. He kept his gaze forward and offered the smallest half-smile he could manage, a practiced expression that said both "morning, mates" and "not today." A week earlier, the studio had confirmed he would film one final flashback for the new Batman picture, but no one outside the set knew precisely where or when the crew would gather. An errant production assistant had mumbled "Glasgow" in an anonymous Discord chat, and speculation ignited. Heathrow's arrivals board hadn't even listed the flight number, yet cameras still flocked, scenting money in every frame of his travel-creased coat. The story takes a great turn towards the end. Fans need to see this change. If you are really a fan of Hollywood and Tom Hardy, you need to know this story. Don't forget to subscribe before continuing. Inside, the terminal felt like a single vast lung inhaling humanity. Voices and trolley wheels pitched upward, echoing against steel beams, then sank into the hiss of coffee machines. Hardy adjusted the strap of his carry-on, its canvas battered by 6 countries' worth of location shoots, and followed 2 studio-appointed security men toward the private check-in counter. He loved airports for their incidental theater, strangers hugging, toddlers shrieking, executives rehearsing PowerPoints under breath. But today, he was on edge. It wasn't nervousness about the upcoming stunt work in Glasgow. Scripts were memorized, physical prep complete. Rather, he had felt a creeping weight since word leaked that Bane might appear in cameo form. 12 years after The Dark Knight Rises, the villains still stalked message boards, TikTok edits, and gym playlists. Whole subcultures worshipped Bane's liberation through terror mantra, quoting his gravelly aphorisms as if they were motivational scripture. Hardy sometimes wondered whether the mask had eclipsed the man beneath, whether fans had blurred the line between fictional violence and real-world bravado. If you leave your thoughts as a comment in the comments, we can chat about the story. A young supervisor at the desk, cheeks flushed, hands fluttering, tapped his passport details into the system and slid a paper boarding pass across the counter. Her eyes flicked from the screen to him, to the security entourage, then back again, as though reconciling the legend with the flesh and blood actor. He thanked her, clipped a polite nod to the adjuncts behind her, and turned toward fast-track security. Then he heard a voice that cut through the white noise of the terminal, deep enough to vibrate metal stanchions. "I'm telling you, that man should never get on a plane. You've seen what Bane can do. Nobody's safe if he's loose. This guy has some serious problems. We don't know what's going on in his past, but he really thinks he could be Bane." Hardy slowed. The speaker was a tall black man near the main information pillar, shoulders squared, dreadlocks pulled into a tidy bun beneath an RAF-style leather cap. He wore a heavy bomber jacket patched with community sports logos and carried a duffel that looked military surplus. His tone wasn't mocking, not fanboy excitement, but rigid, urgent concern, pitched at a uniformed Heathrow officer who seemed unsure how to respond. "Sir," the officer tried, "Bane isn't—" He trailed off, searching for a diplomatic phrase that wouldn't inflame matters. Hardy's security detail gestured for him to keep moving, standard protocol for unexpected disturbances. Yet the man's sincerity rooted Hardy to the spot. The traveler wasn't seeking autographs or viral footage, he was genuinely alarmed. Cameras drifted in, smartphones tilting upward, live stream comments scrolling. Hardy confronted by stranger. Is this a publicity stunt? Bane IRL? Algorithms drooled. A small knot of passengers lingered, sensing drama worth missing their flat whites for. Hardy weighed his options. If security intervened, tabloids would spin, Hardy escorted away from fan altercation. If he ignored it, stories would paint him aloof. But if he engaged, carefully, there was a chance to steer the narrative somewhere decent. He stepped from the velvet-roped lane and walked toward the commotion, palms open, cap low but eyes direct. "Morning," he called, voice calm, projecting across chattering onlookers. "I think you're talking about me." The stranger pivoted with a start. Recognition and alarm warred on his face. "Tom Hardy," he said, stamping each syllable. "You admit you're him." "Can't really deny it," Hardy replied with a wry smile. "Tom, and you are?" "Marcus," the man answered. But he didn't offer a hand. Instead, he addressed the security officer. "This is the guy who played Bane," he insisted, finger driving into the air. "You've watched the film? You know the damage a man like that can do?" The officer, perhaps relieved Hardy had taken control, stepped back to widen the conversational semicircle. Marcus's rhetoric gathered pace. He conjured Gotham's stadium collapsing, citizens forced to kneel, symbols burned. Some kids near the Cafe Nero giggled until Marcus's intensity quieted them. Hardy waited, letting Marcus burn through the catalog of cinematic horrors. When the man paused for air, Hardy spoke, softer than before. "Marcus, I'm an actor. What happened in that film was fiction, created so audiences can face big ideas from a safe distance." Marcus's jaw flexed. "Fiction spills," he countered. 14-year-olds in my neighborhood quote Bane before they pick fights. They think fear equals respect. You walk free, mask or no mask, while we deal with real-world fallout. It landed like a punch Hardy never blocked. The memory of kids impersonating the villain during autograph signings flickered through him. Rehearsal rooms with script pages discussing economic terror, philosophical cruelty. He had dissected those motives, but rarely confronted how deeply they rooted in fans. Under terminal LEDs, Marcus's concern felt urgent, raw. Hardy lifted his cap, exposing his face fully. "Let's step aside," he suggested, gesturing to an alcove by a shuttered newsstand. "No crowds." Marcus hesitated, then nodded. They moved, trailed by 3 vloggers who kept a respectful distance once Hardy's security shot them a glacial glare. The alcove smelled of industrial cleaner and cold air. It's like an abandoned place with zombies living in one room or another. A bad smell and dimly lit corridors. Marcus planted his duffel at his feet. Hardy leaned against the corrugated security gate, hands in jacket pockets. Silence stretched until Marcus filled it. "Used to love comics," he began, eyes drifting to a maintenance ladder, then back. "Grew up South London, gangs everywhere. We needed heroes with codes, not villains who offer shortcuts." But the lads latched onto Bane's mask, his bravado. They'd shout his lines while mugging people like it gave permission. Hardy swallowed. "Storytelling has responsibility," agreed. "They call me Coach," Marcus said. "Run a community boxing program, keep kids busy, but they scroll TikTok and see edits celebrating Bane's speeches set to drill beats. Influence is real." Hardy breathed through a knot in his sternum. "Films also show villains defeated," he offered. "Batman rose again." Marcus snorted. "They skip the ending. They freeze where power looks coolest." Hardy pushed off the gate. "Let's redirect that power." He fished out his mobile, opened video mode, and awkwardly extended it for a selfie. Marcus flinched. "Not for clout," Hardy assured. "For your program. Use my platform." Marcus's skepticism lingered, but he allowed it. Hardy hit record. He spoke first, explained stunt rehearsals, script intentions, the gulf between fiction and lived pain. He admitted they failed audiences when nuance got lost online. Marcus then described his boxing club, how discipline converts aggression into art, how masks protect jaws, not identities. Hardy nodded, inserting brief clarifications, never stealing Marcus's stage. 2 minutes later, he ended the recording and handed the phone over. "Your decision," Hardy said. "Post, edit, bin, whatever helps." Marcus watched the playback. His voice sounded steadier in the video. The message felt right. Without further hesitation, he uploaded it to the club's Instagram, tagging Hardy. Notifications pinged like popcorn. The air between them thawed. Hardy stuck out his hand again. This time Marcus clasped it. Paparazzi lenses caught that handshake, sparks of flash cutting the gloom. A rumble of approval rose from bystanders. Conflict diffused. A plot twist. Security guards relaxed. An airline staffer hustled over, anxious. "Mr. Hardy, final call for your flight." Hardy thanked her but turned to Marcus. "Give me your number. Let's set up a visit after Glasgow." Marcus blinked, humbled, then typed digits into Hardy's contacts under Marcus, Unity Gym. As Hardy followed security back toward Fast Track, a teen live streamer called, "Tom, was that real?" Hardy flashed a grin. "More real than you think, mate." Laughter rippled. Marcus laughed too, a weight gone from his shoulders. Hardy cleared security, shoes on, belt intact, VIP perks, and walked into the lounge. Screens already buzzed. Hardy Airport Peacemaker scrolls on Sky News tickers. The recorded clip had hopped platforms, retweeted by influencers, captioned, "Villain meets coach, chooses courage." Studio PR texted gratitude. The Glasgow unit would definitely spin this in press junkets. He sipped mint tea, scrolling comments, fans debating ethics, parents applauding vulnerability, cynics calling it staged. Whatever, the conversation was public now, and the kids at Unity Gym would benefit. 40 minutes later, Hardy boarded the Embraer, nodded to the flight attendant, and sat window side. Engines wound up. As the plane taxied, his phone buzzed. A message from Christian Bale. "Heard you fought Bane with kindness. Good tactic, brother." Hardy chuckled aloud. He typed back, "Bat approved." The plane lifted, banking through charcoal clouds. During cruise, he opened notes and drafted impressions. The necessity of framing villains responsibly, the surprise of meeting someone whose life was bruised by art, the thrill of turning flashbulbs into spotlights for community work. Words flowed, raw, destined for an op-ed he'd promised a mental health charity. Landing in Glasgow afternoon, Hardy disembarked into crisp Scottish air, where local reporters awaited. Instead of prying about secret scripts, they asked about Marcus, about the boxing center, about narrative ethics. Hardy explained the club's crowdfund link, concluded, "Strong stories inspire strong actions. Let's choose wisely." The unit van whisked him to set, a warehouse dressed as an underground prison. Between takes, he scrolled fundraiser numbers, Unity Gym climbing past £10,000 in pledges. He smiled behind the heavy mask during camera tests, imagining Marcus's reaction. Weeks passed, and the clip from Heathrow kept circulating, now studied in university media courses for how quickly narratives can flip. Warner Bros. Quietly funded a short documentary about Unity Gym, distributed on HBO Max as a 5-minute featurette before the new Batman film's streaming release. Online commenters marveled that the scariest villain could inspire the gentlest outcome, forgetting that stories have always held mirrors to their audiences. People decide what to see in the reflection. Months later, on opening night of the completed film, Hardy attended an understated premiere in London. Reporters still yelled for spoilers, but between flashes he spotted Marcus standing near the velvet rope, flanked by 3 of his boxers in crisp suits. Hardy crossed the carpet, ignoring handlers, and embraced him. Photographers captured that hug. No masks, no fear, just 2 men linked by the strange knot of fandom and responsibility. That image became the evening's defining shot, cropping up all over morning papers under headlines like "Bane's redemption arc continues off-screen." Unwittingly, Marcus had become a cultural footnote to Batman lore, proof that the most potent crossover was between art and real-world compassion. Later that night, Hardy returned home, kicked off patent leather shoes, and opened the French doors onto his balcony. The Thames reflected city lights like scattered diamonds on black velvet, the water moving in gentle currents that caught and released the glow from passing boats. He let the cool breeze calm the residual adrenaline, feeling it lift the weight of the evening's performance from his shoulders. The sounds of London at night drifted up from the streets below. Distant sirens, the rumble of late buses, the occasional laughter from revelers making their way home. He then retrieved the journal he'd started mid-flight weeks earlier, its leather cover now worn soft from constant handling. The pages fell open naturally to where he'd left off, ink stains marking the margins where inspiration had struck suddenly. He filled 2 pages with impressions of sound stages, of lifting 100-kilo sandbags in the prison set, of kids in Brixton quoting his breathing tips with perfect mimicry. Each memory felt vivid as he wrote, the physicality of his craft still echoing in his muscles. As Big Ben chimed midnight in the distance, he paused to watch a couple walking hand in hand along the embankment, their silhouettes small against the vast city backdrop. He thought about the strangers who had approached him tonight, sharing their own stories of transformation and struggle. These encounters always reminded him why he chose roles that demanded everything from him, not for the accolades, but for the human connections they fostered. The clock read 2:07 a.m. when he finally slept, but his dreams drifted not through crumbling Gotham, but through a small South London gym, gloves thudding rhythmically, each punch echoing a narrative reclaimed. Somewhere in those dreams, Marcus laughed, maskless and bright, and a new generation listened, hearing strength without threat, myth without menace. And that, Hardy thought upon waking, was the real post-credit scene, a quiet promise that no flash of fandom, no viral misunderstanding, had power over the simple act of two people choosing to speak, to listen, and to reshape a story the world thought it already knew. If you want me to continue with Tom Hardy stories and produce better scenarios, you can subscribe and comment to support me.